Hi, how does it feel to do things meant for others? Of course, it's a very sad feeling. So far, in the balance sheet topic, you've been learning a lot of things which are relevant more from an accounting standpoint. And the reason you are aware that unless you know behind the wheel and blah blah blah, all that stuff. But I would stop kicking the can down the road and will give you what people will pay you to do. That is called as the analysis of financial statement. And welcome to this pre-watch video on the ratio categories which are based on the balance sheet information. We've done something very similar, the name of profitability ratios, where certain numerical denominators and numerators were combined together to create a logical number using which you made some analysis. You perhaps looked at two people, the two firms competing with each other, made something out of that, your judgment, your analysis, your small report. And this is going to be a similar exercise. The only difference here is going to be that the majority information is going to come from the balance sheet. And the central difference between an income statement and balance sheet is going to become more clear, as you go along. So balance sheet is like a static information, talks about a photograph. Financial position is the message that you want to cull out of it. So in how many perspectives can you look at this financial position? That's what the balance sheet ratios are all about. Okay, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time giving you theoretical definitions, and I'm going to jump on to the first category of ratios, which are called as the liquidity ratios. People, by no means this is the last time I'm going to look at liquidity ratios with you. I want to just kind of also discuss, there is a feeling that since we are doing ratio analysis together with income statement and balance sheet, is that the end of ratio analysis in our life? Of course no. We are going to look at ratio analysis and trend analysis and common sizing and time series analysis later with a very strong focus. But right now, it basically, this exercise is serving two purposes. First, it is forcing you to again find those parameters by looking at, and in the process you're reading the statement up and down again. So things are getting absorbed subconsciously. And the second, it is creating a wonderful foundation for that analysis module that you're going to do sometime from now. So think of it as a preparatory class for that major analysis class, which we will do with a full-fledged case where you would be on an Excel file and calculating the ratios. You'll be able to work much better there if you are good today. Okay, so I have no confusion in my mind that whatever we are doing in terms of ratios is just a precursor, is more of a numerical exercise that I want you to go through. And by no means this is the end of the road in terms of explanation of these ratios too. Okay, so we have already looked at the profitability ratios. Here is another category of ratio called as the liquidity ratios. Liquidity is, you are aware, is the ability of the business to arrange cash to meet its short-term obligations. And therefore, you see the denominator to be current liabilities, typically are the obligations which you need to pay within a year. Now, what kind of obligations? It could be a bank loan which is due within a year, or it could be an outstanding salary. That means nature of the obligation is not important. Be it operating, be it financing, I don't care. Right now, I'm going to look at every obligation which is short term. They are available in the balance sheet. Your balance sheet is a classified balance sheet. It divides your asset side and liability side into current and non-current, short term, long term. It is done for the user, you and me, not for the purpose of accountant. Accountant hates to be doing that because he or she has to prepare much detailed information for our convenience. So that's the good news which we are going to use today. So denominator is current liability in all the three cases. You have current ratio, quick ratio, and cash ratio. The numerator is different in all three. You have current assets like cash, marketable security, account receivable, inventory, prepaid expenses, all current assets which you can utilize to convert into cash within one folio. Okay, that's what current ratio is. The ability of the business to cover the liabilities, short-term liabilities, using all the short-term assets. Cash ratio, the other extreme, is the ability of the business to cover the short-term liability in an ultra short-term time. So the cash ratios typically use only the cash and marketable security, very short-term investments, or cash equivalents as the numerator. They don't include account receivable, inventory, prepaid expenses, because the idea here is to judge the business capability to turn around within a week. Okay, and this is of course hypothetical. We're not saying that every liability is going to turn up your door, but should that happen, how prepared the business is. And quick ratio is somewhere in between, where you're looking at a 3 month kind of a time frame to be able to pay that business the liabilities using cash, marketable securities, and account receivable. You still don't include inventory and prepaid expense, which we believe relatively illiquid within that liquidity spectrum. Okay, so now your mature student, you would understand that compared to machinery, and inventory is more liquid, but compared to cash, inventory is much less liquid. So you see, there is an infinite continuum from very illiquid to a very liquid asset, and current assets are relatively on the liquidity side. But within that spectrum, there would be some assets more liquid, some less liquid. That's what that bifurcation that we just spoke about is all about, right? That's your liquidity ratios. Your other category of ratio is the capital structure ratio, which is to do with your capital structure. The hero of the show is debt. Debt is any capital which is borrowed, any capital which is interest bearing, any capital which exercises a lot of pressure, exerts a lot of pressure on the capital structure. That's debt for me. It could be long term, it could be short term. I don't care. A lot of people think debt means long term debt. That's one of the wrong things to presume. That could be even a day's debt. Okay, with a lot of banking products available now where you can borrow only for overnight. A lot of people do that. A lot of firms do that, by the way. So you have debt to equity, one of the very, 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 very important ratio, wherein you are finding out the proportion of the assets owned by borrowed capital vis-a-vis the shareholders' equity. And shareholders' equity is the overall bag now, which has different six pockets, all of them put together. So it is always shareholders fund is what you got to keep into mind. Okay, and that is long term better. So imagine the ratio is, let's say 20, and the numerator is, let's say 15. So you have 0.75, which means for every 1 rupee contributed by the equity provider, 0.75 is borrowed. Imagine the ratio is opposite, let's say 3:1. This is a matter of risk. For every 1 rupee, bank has given 3 rupees. Should there be a situation of a downfall, a bankruptcy or anything like that, bank will definitely stand to lose, because greater proportion is financed by banks. So this is a little risky situation. This is a risk ratio, so to speak. Interest coverage is again a coverage ratio like liquidity, where the denominator is what you have to pay and the numerator is the pool from which you have to pay. So imagine the interest you have to pay is 10 and the EBIT you have is 50. You are covering your interest 5 times. That's what it basically means, right? Higher the better, clearly higher the better. Is debt to equity higher the better? Well, looks like lower the better. But in your corporate finance, like I said, you're going to debate on that using your capital structure theories. Okay, again, a core course. It's not only meant for marketing or it's not only meant for hardcore finance, but it's also for marketing and HR. This looks to be a busy slide, people, and I don't want you to really confuse. And I'm going to give you a broad logic of what an activity ratio is. How well the business is run, that's what an activity ratio talks about, which is on the ground. How well your total assets getting utilized to generate sales? How well are your fixed assets utilized to generate sales? And again, another bifurcation, how well is your working capital? So you see the working capital and total assets and fixed assets. These are the three units which you can measure the utilization of these three things in context to sales. Higher the better. We would want to minimize the investment into any of these to generate maximum sales. If you look at the structure of the first category, subcategory should I say, here, the numerator is sales. and the denominator is that particular subject matter. So imagine if numbers are 10 divided, let's say in the denominator, and 20, which means 2 is to 1, which means I need 1 rupee investment in my total asset to generate a sales of 2 rupees. Higher the better, clearly. And that's how you can interpret fixed assets and current working capital turnovers as well. See, turnover ratios, as they say, is always in relation to sales. The sales is also a synonym for turnover, so to speak. Although there is a big difference, and I hope that you remember that what the difference is. The other kind of activity ratios are not in relation to sales only; they are in relation to more operational things like inventory, your account receivable, your suppliers. In corporate finance, again, you're going to call them working capital management. How well a business is being able to utilize the inventory, that's what inventory holding period or inventory, different names, inventory turnover sometimes it is called as. I tell you what is a mathematical thing in my life class, but largely what it means is, uh, can business quickly buy inventory in form of raw material, turn it around into finished goods and sell it? That's what an inventory holding period is. I would want to keep it as small as possible. I would want to buy today and sell today itself. I would want to have an inventory holding period of almost like 1 day, smaller than that. It will save me my money, which is getting blocked. It will save me some rent that I will have to pay for the warehouse. It will save me some pilferage. It will save me a lot of other problems, which is called as inventory holding cost overall, which in your operations management as a module, you're going to learn a model called as EOQ, economic order quantity, where you will be told that there are two types of inventory cost: inventory ordering cost and inventory holding cost. Holding cost is a bothering problem for a normal business, yeah, and therefore longer the inventory holding period, the holding costs are higher. So typically we say that smaller the better. Same goes, the smaller the better, for collection period. You're making a sale today on credit, you want to collect today itself. Zero credit is the best credit, as they say, 0 day credit is the best credit. But that doesn't happen. Every industry has has like a rule. Every not a rule, but it's an industry practice. Every city, every state, every country has some unspoken practices. So like in textile, where we say that it is little longer, like 6 month credit, if you want to, and in a wholesale market typically, not in a mall shop where you have to pay on the spot, but in a typical wholesale textile market for 6 months. As a businessman, you can't really play very disruptive and say that I'm going to sell only on cash. Then no one will buy. So credit is actually a marketing tool, which results into some bad debts or results into some interest loss, etc. Again, therefore, the point is the business able to collect quickly? That's a very important operational efficiency measure for that business. काम कैसा चल रहा है? How well is the business? Are people paying in time? That's what we are measuring. Let me show you that, which is the collection holding period here, and inventory is also we did. We add the two, we are going to explain in a live class as to what is an operating cycle and what do we really mean by it, and how do we calculate it. So don't really worry about it. And almost like towards the fag end of this pre-watch video, I want to just kind of you understand what is a supplier payment period, yeah? How quickly are you making payment to your suppliers? Two theories. Never make too quick a payment, because you want to block their money into your business so that your personal investment could be minimized. That's one theory. Second theory is, if you don't pay them on time or soon enough, good suppliers won't work with you. Or next time they're going to supply you including the interest, which they will lose because you're not paying on time. So your purchase price will go up. In both the cases, again, you see there is a debate here. These kind of debates you're going to look at in your corporate finance. Accounting is not decision making. Accounting is reporting exercise. Okay, corporate finance is a decision making arena where you will really debate and you're going to discuss. You're going to look at pros and cons of things. So like I said, three advantages of sessions like these, yeah, that you're going to have. You're going to learn the ratios, which is important. You're going to look at the balance sheet and income statement again and again. You're going to create a strong foundation for your analysis class that you will have with me, And third, we're going to also build a lot of basics for corporate finance, when it will start. And it's going to start soon enough. So people, that's it from my side in terms of these balance sheet ratios or ratios based on balance sheet information. I look forward to speak to you with an Excel file or a very, very strong handle on calculator. Of course, Excel is better any day. And we're going to look at perhaps HUL as a case, or we're going to look at any other company's latest annual report and calculate all these ratios. So be prepared to be a little for a little irritating class, because it's always a little bothering to look at the raw data and find out the ratio. So that's what the learning outcome is going to be, right? Super excited to meet you and calculate these ratios with you. Looking forward.